Good evening. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us for our community Zoom call, Wings for Widows. I'm really glad that you're here. I think we have about 50 people signed on tonight, so that's wonderful. I wanted to just give you a little, my weekly commercial about Wings for Widows. We are a service agency that started about 2 years ago. We do financial coaching for new widows and try to help people kind of get their feet under them after the loss of a spouse. And if you haven't taken advantage of our coaching services yet, we would welcome your inquiry. We are able to help in big ways and small ways. If you have just a couple of questions, or if you really need someone to help you kind of walk through everything, either way, we're happy to help. We also want a companion with you. We have a team of widow volunteers who will just walk the path together with you. Excuse me. So I wanted to welcome you and also introduce our speaker this evening. It's Dawn Morningstar. Excuse me, I'm having just a little glitch in my throat. Dawn Morningstar is the award-winning author, master coach, speaker, and podcast host. She's also an educator and a personal coach. She started an organization called Venerable Women back in 2013. It's a sisterhood, a philosophy, and a movement with and for women who choose to practice loving themselves, trusting their intuition, and bringing their wisdom to life. Dawn founded Venerable Women Empowerment Foundation. It's a nonprofit that elevates spiritual, social, physical, and economic well-being of women and offers scholarships for women who want to attend conferences and programs and classes. So we're very, very fortunate to have Dawn share with us this evening. Her title is Two Truths and a Lie. And unlike most women, she was willing to spend 21 days in silence. And I think we should give her a hand just for that.
Oh, thank you, Leanne.
So you're very welcome. And I'm so thankful you're with us tonight. So Dawn's going to take a half hour. If you guys have questions for her, please use your chat button. Address those questions and I will see them and then I'll ask Dawn. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I thought we could just take a moment to look on the screen and see everyone who's here with us. And if you are on the gallery view, you can see all of the different faces, all of the people whose hearts are connected because we're here on this call together. So just to take a moment to think about the fact that in this moment, we are together and not alone. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the idea of emotions. Humans have a full spectrum of emotions. That's nothing new. I'm sure you understand that. And that's part of the richness of our experience as being a human, is to have all of these different emotions. And so I thought we could start off, since my talk is Two Truths and a Lie about happiness. And this is inspired by my 21 days in the silence in India, that we could take a moment to go into the silence and think of something. I'd like you to think of something that makes you happy. Just take a moment. You can close your eyes if you like, or you can leave them open. It doesn't matter. And think of something that makes you really happy and give yourself full permission to let yourself feel joy or happiness in this moment. It can be anything at all. Good. And with your eyes still closed, if they are, let's take a deep breath together and feel this moment of joy together. So I consulted with Mecca Page, who is my business partner in Venerable Women, because she has been widowed twice. I have not had that experience, but I wanted to get her perspective so that I could be authentic with what I talked with you about this evening. And in addition to happiness, like we just took that little moment to share or to feel happiness, there are other emotions that we can be very familiar with as well. Grief, sadness, shame, fear, confusion, all of that. So I was born to a very young mother who had no skills in mothering. And so the first few months of my life, I was passed from friend to friend and family member to family member until when I was 9 months old, my very young mother dropped me off at my grandmother Rosie's house, and she never came back. And I knew that my mother, as I got older and, could understand things a little bit more, I knew that my mother lived in the same city, but she had no contact with me at all. And this caused me a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, a lot of confusion, and it caused me shame. I felt like if my own mother left me as a baby, there must have been something terribly wrong with me. And I also wondered why she never sent me a card or did anything like that. And so through the years, I got spiritual direction and I got therapy. I went through therapy. I hired a life coach. And then one day when I was starting to feel more whole through the whole experience, I decided to go and meet my mother. And that story is very, very beautiful, but we won't have time for it here. It is in my book, Venerable Women, Transform Ourselves, Transform the World. Or if you want to reach out to me and schedule a call, I'd be happy to tell you the story. So happily, over the years, my mom and I, we healed, we learned to love one another, we forgave one another. And I ended up spending the last years of her life with her until she took her very last breath. And she was very tiny because of all the chemotherapy, and she had lost her hair. And I remembered holding her in my arms toward the end, and she looked like a baby to me. And I felt like we had come full circle. We had completed whatever it was that we needed or had to learn from one another. And so I wanted to share a few visuals with you as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to share the screen with you. And here we go. It's just taking a moment to come up. There we go. And so I ended up, having been a spiritual seeker my whole life, I ended up going to India. A friend of mine was going, and she said, I think it's important that we take this journey together. And so while I was there, can you imagine going with your best friend anywhere and not talking for 21 days when you're in the same space? We shared a dorm room with 17 other women, a bathroom with 10 women, because there were about 160 women there altogether. Well, people, but it was just the women we were sharing the bathroom with. And we ate Indian food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we learned some very deep truths about ourselves. And the interesting thing about not talking for 21 days is you're not processing your thoughts with other people. You're really going within and thinking about what you think about things rather than what your friend might think about it or how they might reflect. And it was really hard not to talk to her. We used to have to sit on opposite ends of the meditation hall and the teaching hall so that we wouldn't talk. So what I learned was that there really are only two ways of being in the world. There is the stressful place or the lovely place. In any given moment, we're going to be in one of those two spaces. And by the way, I have all of this written out for you, and I'd be very happy to share the practices that will follow and all of this with you. So we're either stressed or we're in this lovely state. And so I want to get right into this idea of the two truths and a lie about happiness, because I want to start with the lie, because I think that's just an interesting way to start all of this. So the lie is, and I hope everyone can see, I know on my screen some of the faces are on top, but you can move your little box around if you want to, just by grabbing the black box at the top, and you can move that if you'd like. But the lie is that happiness is selfish. Have you ever heard that? Like, people will say things like, like, wait till the other shoe drops, don't get too excited. And a lot of phrases about happiness tell us that we probably shouldn't be happy. And we're also told that taking care of ourselves and being happy can be seen as selfish acts as well. So that's more than one lie. It's a couple lies built into one lie. Another thing that we may think is that we are happy if we are happy I'll get this out, then we are not honoring something sad that has happened. We don't want to give ourselves permission to be happy or joyful. We feel that that's not honoring something sad or terrible that has happened. Has anybody here ever felt that way? Yeah, me too. Until the day that I realized that me not being happy does not help the world in any way, and it certainly doesn't help me. And so that's the lie about happiness, is that it's selfish and that, it's short-lived, and that if we are being happy, then we are not honoring something that has happened. So let's move into the truth. That's the lie. The truth is that happiness is actually good for your health and well-being. I know you've probably heard this a million times, right? But does anybody ever tell you how to do it? And that's what I will be sharing with you. So when we are happy, it actually causes physical changes within our body, with our hormones, with our dopamine levels. It uplifts us. It actually gives us more energy when we are happy or in a joyful state. And especially during these times, what's important is it really helps boost our immune system. And I know everybody's got a little bit of a concern about our health these days. And so those are benefits that come from being happy. Is, boosted immune system, we are uplifted, and our energy level raises. And so the next truth is that no one else can make you happy. It's an inside job that only you can do. A lot of people think that some outside factor can make us happy, or that some person can make us happy. Like, if only they do this, then I'll feel happy. Or why didn't they figure out that's what I needed? And if they had done that, then I would feel happy. That's the exact opposite approach. We want to be happy from within, and then we attract more happiness to us. And so it's an inside job that we and only we can do. And quite honestly, we honor our own lives and the lives of those around us when we are happy or joyful, especially when we give ourselves permission to be happy. So think about that for a moment. In what way are you not giving yourself permission to be happy? And what's standing in the way of you allowing yourself to be happy? So I wanted to give you some practical things that you can do. Here are some awareness practices for happiness and joy. And again, I'm very happy to send all of this to you. Upon waking in the morning, give yourself permission to be happy and to be joyful right away, right when you first wake up in the morning. Just say to yourself, I am giving myself permission to be happy for all the reasons that we said. And the second one is when you're feeling sadness or despair, grief, fear, or any other stressful emotion, name it specifically and acknowledge it. This is really huge. A lot of times we want to run the opposite direction from sadness or despair or grief or fear. We just don't want to feel it, but yet we're stuck in it. Sometimes all we need to do is acknowledge and name specifically what we are feeling. What this does for us is we're using our awareness to be very clear on where we are in the moment, because otherwise the feeling itself takes over instead of us being the witness of our thoughts and our behaviors. Does that make sense? And so naming it specifically also gives you a sense of inner power, because otherwise the feeling becomes the authority. The third one is likewise when you're feeling happiness, joy, or a lovely emotion, name it specifically and acknowledge it. You know, we think sometimes we only need to go into these meditative states or these awareness states when we're feeling something that feels heavy or stressful, when in fact, it's lovely to acknowledge, oh my gosh, I'm feeling joy right now, you know, or I'm feeling calm. And I'm so grateful for that, you know. And one of my favorite authors, Carla McLaren, has written a book called The Language of Emotions. And she says that there are no good or bad emotions. They all come with a message for us. And for the message for sadness is what must be released and what must be restored. So those are interesting internal reflection questions to ask ourselves with sadness. And with happiness, what can be celebrated and what can be appreciated? So it's an interesting way to look at our emotions. The next one is if you want to go beyond acknowledgement and take the practice deeper, once you've named and acknowledged the feeling, you close your eyes, breathe deeply, and see an effervescent bubble at the center of your heart. And then you see that bubble float up to the center of your head and out through the crown of your head. And then you breathe deeply again and open your eyes. So I thought what we could do is take a few moments to actually do this practice. And so what I'd like you to do is think of an emotion or a feeling. It can be any one at all that you are feeling right now. It could even be boredom. I think this is a boring speaker. It could be, happiness. I'm so happy I learned this new thing. It could be anything at all. The idea is we want to get very real with what we're feeling. A lot of times we don't. So get very real with what you're feeling right now. And if you want to close your eyes, you can. And give that feeling a very specific name. Give it a name. Happiness, joy, boredom, sorrow, discontent, whatever it may be. So take a moment and get very clear on what you're feeling. Beautiful. Now breathe deeply and see an effervescent bubble at the very center of your heart. And then slowly see that bubble float up to the center of your head and out through the top of your crown. And then take a breath in to the count of 3. So breathing in 1, 2, 3. Hold for a second. And then breathing out to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then slowly open your eyes. So I'm curious, what would anyone like to share what that felt like to them? And I'll allow you gurus to unmute whoever that is, because I can only see a few people on my screen because of the screen sharing. Is there anyone who would like to comment on that or anything else that I've talked about or shared so far?
I would.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to text, so I'm not doing this. For me, it was like I felt the breath stop. It wouldn't go all the way up. And I kind of like paused and like I was holding my breath. And then I let it go after that, but it was definitely stuck at my heart.
Yes.
And that happens to me a lot with feelings when I'm sad and stuff. These tend to get stuck at my heart.
Okay. Well, in that case, what you could do, is your name Linda? Is that what it says on the screen?
Linda. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Linda, what you can do is you could do the bubble at the third eye in between your eyebrows, and then have the bubble go into your head and out through the top of your head. And that way you can have that flow. And the more you practice these kinds of things, you'll be able to have that heart energy feel very healed, and you'll be able to do things like that. It's just a matter of time. So try that and see if it works. Anyone else want to share what your experience was or any questions you have? I've been coaching for 30 years. And so I've seen many different situations where people feel stuck or feel that they're ready to move on and they don't quite know how to. So anyone at all, please, I'm here to serve you.
I was going to just share that my happy feeling today was I got to hug my grandchildren for the first time since February.
Oh,
That
is happiness.
So I don't need to think about a bubble. I just think about having them in my arms. Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's very beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and I will treasure that feeling. But it is nice to not let it pass, to remember what it felt like in detail, and name it and dwell on it, because I gotta make it last, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. And there's also something about the flow of all of the feelings too, because we can get stuck in any particular emotion, and then we want to be able to move forward with all emotions. I think about a little child who falls down and maybe scrapes their knee, and they're crying and it's like the end of the world. And then somebody hands them an ice cream cone and they're happy and they have forgotten all about it, right? And so what that tells me is the child is being in the moment. And that's what is really important for each of us to do, is to be in the moment. And I'm sure, Leanne, when you were with your grandchild, that you were so present. You were just right there, right? And that's part of the beauty of the human experience, is to be present with whatever is happening, and to be kind and compassionate to ourselves. Absolutely. Okay. So then I have one last awareness practice for you. And that one is to see individuals in your life being happy, and to bring them, like close your eyes and see them come before you one by one, and see them being their version of happy, whatever happiness is for them, not what we think they should be doing for happiness, to be happy. Because as a parent, I know I did that for a little while and decided that was not very honoring. But to see them happy, because seeing others happy blesses their lives, and it creates more happiness within us. And that's a very beautiful way to elevate ourselves and to lift our own spirits, and to be able to really feel that joy factor and raise those endorphins and all of that in our bodies. So I'd love to open up. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more before we finish up. I know we have about 5 more minutes. So what would you like to share with me or ask of me? I really would love to get to know you better.
Everybody's so quiet today.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I honor that. And some days are just like that. I totally honor that. Well, then we will go forward.
I have one, it's kind of a question. I used to be able to do the deep breathing, and I took mindfulness and all that, and I was able to do it. And now, after I lost my husband, I'm having a harder time, but also physical complaint. I've got a lot of physical problems. I've got arthritis and some gastroenterology problems, and my physical problems tend to interfere with my emotional problems, and it just it feels like overload to me. Like I just can't get past it because I am on overload with too many feelings, physical and emotional.
That's very common. For that sense of overwhelm and feeling overloaded. It's very common in our times, and especially with what you're experiencing right now. And what I would say is this, that body, mind, and spirit are one. They're not even connected. They are one thing. Our bodies, our minds, and our spirits. So this is another reason for us to be very aware of what we're thinking and feeling. Because when we are in the present moment, nothing can distract us away. And that is what helps I believe, what helps to heal us in other areas of our lives. So for example, if we spend time in the past, then we are missing out on this very moment right here. Or if we're projecting into the future, like feeling, oh, it could be chaotic, or it could be this, or it could be that. If we're not in the moment, then our bodies suffer, our minds suffer. I would imagine that you feel confusion sometimes too, right? It's all connected. It's all one thing. So the very best gift that you have is your own breath. And if deep breathing is too much for you, breathe in a way that you can, and be kind to yourself. And that's why I do just breathe in 3, breathe out 4. That's pretty easy. Most people can do that. But if you can only breathe in 2 and breathe out 3, do that. The idea is you want your out breath to be a little longer than your in breath. That tells your body that you're okay. So the deep breathing, what it does is as deep as you can make it, and that's going to be different for each person, it tells your body that you don't have to be in a state of fright or flight. It tells your body you're okay. It tells your sympathetic nervous system that everything is okay. And so when you do that, so what you're doing is you're using your mind to be able to Bring yourself that sense of peace, bring yourself right into that moment, and that helps your body to heal. The things that you described are inflammations within the body. And so when our mind is inflamed and our thoughts are inflamed and we're not in the present moment, it causes inflammation in the body because it's all one thing. Does that make sense to you? Okay. So what do you think you could do? Just a little tweak of something that you're doing that would make a difference for you.
Well, I think starting out when I get up in the morning is do a little bit of a stretch and do some breathing with the stretching.
Yes.
Because I tend to get up anxious. You know, I'm already anxious when I get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if I just take a few moments in bed and try to do some breathing and try to do a little stretching,
Mm-hmm.
I think that might help.
And what was the number one awareness practice? To give yourself permission to be happy right away when you wake up in the morning, because there are so many things to be happy and grateful about. And I know some people say, oh, happiness is surface and happiness is fleeting, and you should say joy instead because that's deeper. I don't care what we call it. It's just nice to feel good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just nice to feel good. And when we feel good, then we are adding to the happiness factor of our whole world, of our whole planet. And so I'll finish up here by saying that there's a little picture of my book. It's on Audible and Kindle. And we have these virtual magazines. They're completely free that are really beautiful. And I don't know, Leanne, if you got a chance, I know you've been very busy, but they're very inspirational. And I don't know, did you say you were going to send out the link? Is that what you'll do?
But yes, we wanted to have permission from people to go ahead and send out the link to your magazine.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just want to throw that out to everybody that's listening tonight who responded to your talk, that we would send that out. If you don't want it, just hit unsubscribe. We don't want to overwhelm people with extra things, but I think it might be helpful for some to, you know, subscribe to your magazine. And
Yeah,
again,
this is our third month. Oh, excuse me. This is our third month, and we've gotten very positive comments from people. And
I
so,
looked at it. It's very nice.
yeah,
Very, very
thank
nice.
you. Thank you. And I think that's everything. Oh, and if you do join our mailing list, we'll send you the happiness. It's a mini magazine about more practices for happiness and joy. And so be happy. The world is blessed by your happiness. So thank you all so much. I'm really honored that I got to be here and speak with you.
Thank you, Dawn. Really, really appreciate it, and very much appreciate what you shared with us tonight. I'm going to really work on giving myself permission to be happy every morning. So that was a good tip. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
bye,
now
everyone.
we're gonna go on to our financial matters for this evening, and we have the lovely Chris Bentley back with us again, and he seems to be in Oahu tonight.
Why
with
not?
Diamond Head behind him. So Chris is going to give you some tips about life insurance, and I know when I hear the words life insurance, I get a little nervous. So I think he's got some words to tell us that will kind of help us to understand the benefits and probably some of the warnings about life insurance. It's a great topic, and take it away, Chris.
Thanks very much, Leanne. And Dawn, thank you for joining us tonight. I love the idea of the effervescent bubble. And I used to work for Coke and Pepsi, and all I could think about was getting a drink. But other than that, I loved it. It was very soothing to me. I love the imagery. So I don't know how I would never be able to go to India with you for 21 days and not want you to talk to me, because I just love what you had to say. So thanks very much for being with us. I don't have such beautiful slides like Dawn, and nor do I have a half an hour. As you all know, I usually talk very quickly because I'm trying to share some really good information with you, but I only have a few minutes to do that. So We may not get to questions tonight, but you can always email us and we'll get back to you. Okay. So is my screen showing, Leanne? Okay. You're muted, Leanne.
Yes, it is showing.
Okay, beautiful. Well, let's see if we can make this work. So tonight, I'm going to talk about the myths of life insurance, and we're going to bust them all. As usual, I do everything in tens. So I've got 10 myths. I know Leanne wished I only had 3, it would be done. But I'm going to try to go quickly, okay? So again, myth number 1, life insurance is expensive. I don't know. Is it? No, it's not expensive at all. In fact, a typical 60-year-old can purchase a $100,000 term policy, take care of you for 10 years for less than $45 a month. So, you know, it's not expensive. That's one of the, in fact, the biggest misconception about life insurance is that it is so expensive.
If you're healthy though, Chris.
Well,
If
don't.
you're
I got
healthy.
9 more myths. You just hang on there. Yes, yes, you're right. I mean, you have to be reasonably healthy, Linda. But myth number 2, too many choices and options. It just seems so difficult and complicated. That's true. There are a lot of options out there. Um, Wings for Widows can help you find the right policy. That's not a problem. But for most people, the best choice is just term life insurance. You pick how much coverage you might want or need. We can help you with that. And how long you want that protection, such as 10 or 20 years. Okay. Let's see. The neat thing about it is if you pay your monthly premiums and then die within that term, your beneficiary gets the money tax-free. Myth number 3, if you are young and healthy, you don't need it. Well, you may not need it, but that's when you should buy it, right? Because it's cheaper the younger and healthier you are, to Linda's point. You're more likely to develop health problems as you age, so the price is going to go up. Myth, I'll skip some other commentary. I do have all kinds of really fun examples, but I don't think I have time for them. Myth number 4, if you have health issues, you can't get it. Back to Linda's question. Unless you have severe, and there are some severe health conditions, diabetes being one of them, but even those who have had a reconstructive heart surgery, within 5 years later, you can get life insurance. So just because you've had surgery doesn't mean that you can't get insurance. And unless you have very severe health conditions, generally you can buy term life insurance. May not be the cheapest, and underwriting may be a little bit more involved, but you can still get insurance if it's right for you. Okay. Myth number 5, if you are single, and there's probably a few of us here that are now single, you don't need it. So I thought that's why maybe this would be important to talk about. There are many reasons that single people buy life insurance. Your benefits can pay for your burial costs. Nothing we really want to ponder, you know, for too long. But if you do have people dependent on you, life insurance could help care for them, right, after you're gone. And if you're a business owner, life insurance is really sort of the golden egg. It takes care of all kinds of things, including enabling your heirs to continue your business long enough, either to dispose of it if that was your wish, or to continue the business. So myth number 5. Myth number 6, setting money aside for savings is way more important than silly life insurance. I can't save for retirement and pay $45 a month for my $100,000 life insurance policy, can I? Well, it turns out that because of that expense, you should be able to do both, and most people do. If you've already retired, then putting money aside for savings other than emergency fund may not be as important as maybe a small term policy. But both are sensible in any sense of a financial plan to keep you safe. And so that's probably all I should say about that one. You can do both. Myth number 7, it's not available for older people. Well, of course it's available for older people. You may not need it the older you get, but even if you're over 60, you can generally buy term life insurance, as we said, unless you have a terminal illness or a severe, health condition. Your goals at if you're 60 or over may be different than a 30-year-old's. So you might consider a shorter term policy. But it's not age has nothing to do with it. You may pay a little bit more than the 30-year-old, but it doesn't prevent you from getting life insurance if you'd like to have life insurance. Myth number 8, if you're a stay-at-home parent, you don't need it. Uh, well, if you die, who's going to take care of your children? You may be caring for elderly parents. You might even have some pets that need a new home or need some care. So just because you're a stay-at-home parent doesn't mean you don't need it. A surviving spouse may need to hire help and ensure that benefits could help pay for these costs. So stay-at-home parents provide a tremendous benefit to the family should you remarry, and that void is terribly expensive to fill. Life insurance can help fill that void. Myth number 9, life insurance through my employer is sufficient. Oh, this is the one that gets me going the most. I'll still keep it short, Leanne, don't worry, but I can really get going on this because folks think, gee, I'll buy, I'm employed and I'll get this term, $50,000 group term, and it's only pennies a day. You're right. But as soon as you leave that job, it's gone. And you move to the next job and you start all over. If you buy insurance outside of the employer, it travels with you. You have it for life. Your employer insurance does not travel with you. So it just doesn't make any sense. So if you have some through your employer, that's great. It's probably not enough. And last here as it comes bouncing in, long-term care, maybe some of you are age kind of thinking, 50s is kind of that point where we wonder, if we should be thinking about long-term care. And, it's always been separate, right? Long-term care is a completely different conversation you have with a long-term care representative rather than your life insurance broker. Wrong. Myth number 10, nope, you can get them in the same policy. I'd like to go back to the big view so I could see who's asked you to raise your hands. But this is a huge misconception. No, in fact, you can get something called an advanced source rider, ASR, where you're actually using the face amount, the death benefit, using that if you need it. It's an option, but you can use that to take care of any long-term care. Use it, turn it off if you don't need it any longer. Whatever you haven't used is still available as a death benefit. It's kind of a hybrid policy. They are terrific. I recommend them all the time in my practice because it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So they're terrific policies. That's it. 10 myths in 10 minutes, right, Leanne?
You make it seem like I've got a whip and I'm just cracking the whip over you. I am not. No, you're more than welcome to talk, answer questions.
Well, sure. We've actually got time for a question tonight.
We do. We have time for questions. I think Corinne is going to ask a question. Can you go ahead, Corinne?
Thank you. I have a question about, do I need it or not? One of your, excuse me, miss, is I've already got my cemetery plot and everything paid for. My house is paid for. I have no dependents at all. Do I need life insurance? My son is an adult now, and probably a little bit financially better off than I am. I was told by someone several years ago that I don't need it because of there's nothing that my son will have to put out for.
That may be true, Corinne, and you're absolutely right. Not everyone needs it, but sort of the myth busting was around, gee, I can't even get it if I wanted it. I might have a good example is a disabled dependent that you're going to be caring for a very long time, and without the primary caregiver of that dependent, life would be very hard without life insurance. And so if it's a situation where there is you inherit what am I the right word? You become the guardian. I'm sorry, that was the word I was looking for. You become the guardian of a younger person, and suddenly you have those responsibilities. But you're right. I mean, just from what you've told me, perhaps not. No mortgage. There's nothing to The plot, by the way, and this is actually, I should have maybe even added this as myth number 11, but you know, there's entirely different insurance. For those of you who have not done the work, Corinne probably already knows this, but if you have not purchased the plot or spoken to a funeral director about your own taking care of your own end of life situation, there's a completely different insurance policy for cost of funeral and burial and all those sorts of things than life insurance. And it tends to be, I would say, much more specific and better for that purpose than life insurance. But if you already had life insurance or got life insurance, it's like, don't let it lapse. That's the other thing, is that you get 30 days grace period. If you have insurance and you think it's too expensive and you think the way out is to just let it lapse, this is for everyone. Please don't let it lapse until you've spoken to a professional, whether that's really in your best interest. Saving $30 a month and giving up a $50,000 policy, what would that look like for your heirs? I don't know. I could paint all kinds of pictures. So be really careful if you're in any way struggling financially and you do have a policy. It's one of the things we always check on when we're working and coaching with a widow. Then make sure that you really aren't going to need that policy before you let it lapse, because you can't get it back. You may have had that policy for 30 years and you let it lapse and it's gone in 30 days, right? That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
and I've also had cancer, so I don't know if that would boost my premiums or how that would affect if I decide to get life insurance.
did you beat the cancer? Are you a survivor?
Yes.
You look like a survivor. I see you talking to me. So, so not getting personal, but I mean, yes, if you've had cancer, like I said, surgery, there are many types of cancer that with 5 years of no, in remission, that you can then reapply for insurance. And you can apply for insurance as many times as you want. It's not like a credit. They don't like ding you every time you apply for insurance and get a no. They usually ask you to wait 12 months before you reapply. So, have many do that. Or if you're a smoker, you just have to have smoked in the last 2 years. I know you're not, Corinne, but if you're smoking and thinking about life insurance, you want to not be a smoker for 2 years. It will save you 25% in your insurance premiums if you're not a smoker.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, Corinne. Good to see you. Anything else come in, Leanne?
I have life insurance also, but my husband did buy a plot next to his, so I have my burial site is ready for me and everything is paid, but it would still cost a lot, the whole funeral and the funeral home and all of that. I know I was really happy that Greg had that money paid into his, because I would have been really having a hard time to bury him, because it costs a lot more than you realize that it costs.
It does, and it goes up every year, right? Inflation keeps taking that price up. One of the things that this insurance does, and I'm sorry, I can't think of the specific name of this type of policy. I know what I'm talking about, but I can't think of the name of this policy, but it actually is inflation protected. So that's one of the benefits of it, is if you buy it today, it's like term insurance. It's a level premium. I maybe didn't mention that, but when you buy it when you're 30, your term doesn't go, your premium doesn't go up for the next, assuming you bought a 30-year policy, you buy it at 30, you're paying the same thing when you're 60. Boy, is that cheaper than turning around at 55 and wanting to buy it. So the neat thing about buying for those of you that have, you can maybe step in here, but if you buy it at 50, that price, you lock in the price for all those costs, and those costs are going up every year. So it does behoove you to consider making that, exploring that, and jumping on that.
Are you talking about like doing, I did this, pre-planning your funeral and prepaying it?
Yes.
And I know that's what you're buying.
Yeah, but it's an insurance. It's actually an insurance
Yeah,
policy.
you're actually buying an insurance product.
Right,
I know, but I don't know the name of it.
I can't remember.
But the nice thing about it is, like for me, I paid it in a lump sum. And so now what my funeral costs are covered, and it's never going to change, over time. So
right.
Hopefully I live another 20 years or so.
Make it a really good deal.
My funeral is going to cost what I paid for it. I don't have, my family doesn't have to chip in you know, twice as much money.
Exactly.
And I get my desires too instead of theirs. Put mom in a shoebox.
I know your kids, they would not do that.
Well, I want fireworks at my funeral, so it's going to be expensive. Well, thank you very much for everybody coming out on this hot evening. I see everyone pretty much is indoors, except Carol Swenson, who is, she must like the heat.
That looks like my
It's very
backyard in
good.
Oahu here. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very good to see everybody. Thank you again to Dawn, and thank you, Chris, for the great tips and good things to get us to think carefully about. And once again, next time, I want to give a little commercial for our next speaker. It'll be July 15th, and our speaker is Susie Schultz. Susie is a personal coach and has her own consulting business. She does a lot of contract work for United Healthcare, and she'll be talking about finding purpose again after loss. And then we have a financial coach who will be doing a little talk, and he has not given me his topic yet, but I'm sure it'll be good. So it'll be one of our coaches that doesn't, that you haven't met before probably. So it'll be kind of nice for you to meet one of our other coaches besides Chris. Thank you again for everyone coming out, and just really thankful for all of what you do. Be sure and tell others about Wings for Widows. You're our ambassadors. And we really appreciate it when you tell others about what we do and help them, guide them towards us if they could use the help that we provide. Thank you and good evening.